Hello, welcome to section 1, module 3 of the BibleIT 7680 training videos. That's covering the material for installing, upgrading and migrating to Windows 7 Microsoft exam. So let's get started then. Module 3, what we're looking at today is how to migrate user profiles. There's two main ways you should know to do this. One's using the Microsoft Easy Transfer Wizard and the other is using the User State Migration Toolkit. Inside that toolkit there's two command line tools that you'll use. One is load state and the other one is scan state. So first of all then, we're going to take a look at the different types of user profiles and where you can find out what profiles are stored on the local machine. There's two ways you can get into the user profile location. The first way, if we open up our Start menu and bring up the System Properties and then go into Advanced System Settings, we can see here normally it would open on the Computer Name tab. You go across to Advanced. Then you've got the user profiles, click on settings, and it gives us a list of all the accounts on the machine. Now you can see here that I've only got two. I've got the default profile. That's when a user logs in for the first time, the default profile is what is copied and cloned and assigned across to that user. And then this is my user that I'm currently logged in at the moment. We can see here that my profile is currently around 33 meg. And if I click on change type there, you can see that this is a local profile as opposed to a roaming profile. Roaming profiles being where your profile is stored on the network. When you log in, it's downloaded, copied to the local machine, and when you log off, your changes are written back onto the network. Second place that you'd be able to find these profiles, if I click on Start and go into Control Panel, under User Accounts and Family Safety, then User Accounts, then this option on the left here, Configure Advanced User Profile Properties. If you open that up, again, we get a list of all the profiles that are stored on the local machine, but this time, for some reason, we don't get the default user profile in here. So just cancel out of these. So, just to summarize then, that we've got local accounts and domain accounts. With local accounts, you've either got two types, which is local and roaming, and there's two locations on the computer where you can see those. So the first way we'd be able to migrate our settings from our old computer to our new computer, the main tool that Microsoft designed to do that for consumers is called the Easy Transfer Wizard. It's part of the Windows 7 installation media, which means it's found on the USB stick that you'd have prepared to install Windows 7 or on the CD that you got in the shops. It supports migrating data from Windows XP, Windows Vista or from Windows 7, and there's three main methods of transferring your data. You can either do a direct USB to USB transfer using a specially created cable called the Easy Transfer cable, or you can transfer your files across the network, or you can do write out a file to the hard drive or to a USB drive. That can also be written out to a network location if you'd like. So what are the features of Easy Transfer Wizard? There's a few clever things that it can do. It can map user accounts. So if your user was called User 1 on your old PC, but it was called User 2 on your new one, you can map them across as part of the Transfer Wizard. You can also map drives. So if you've got 3 hard drives on your old computer, but they've come up with different names or different drive letters on the new computer, you can map those across. One slight problem is it will migrate your program settings, but you don't have any control over what program data is copied across. And then lastly, user files. It will search the hard drives for any files that it thinks belong to the user or aren't standard Windows or program files. They are selectable as to what extra bits you can copy across. So let's just have a look here. This computer, I've got the Windows 7 install media in here. If we open up that folder, if we open the folder instead of running the CD, have a look under support, and then in this MIGWiz folder here. Now this is the Easy Transfer Wizard. If I run MIGWiz here, this is going to give us the welcome screen. If I click on Next, I've got my 3 choices for how I'm going to transfer data across from my old computer to my new computer. Well, in this case, we're going to say we're going to create a file on this local machine. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to say this is my old computer. And you can see it runs through here. This is the user it's found on the computer. As we saw earlier on in the session that I do only have one local user. And it's then going to run through, scan, find all the settings, and then do the same for shared items. So I'm just going to pause the recording and we'll come back when that wizard's finished. Okay, that's finished there. Now, a few bits of information we've got here. So this is our user, Bibble user. That user profile, it reckons, has got 90 megs worth of data. And then we've got 106 megs worth of shared items on the computer. So you can see down here that in total it reckons there's 150 megabytes worth of data that it needs to save in order to restore it on my new computer. So for each of these, I could tick or untick a user if there's certain users that I know I don't want to bring across to my new computer. And I can click on Customize here to pick what items inside that profile I want to copy across. So I might know that in music it's just all the standard demo tracks that you get, and I haven't got anything else stored in there. Same with videos perhaps. And if I click on Advanced, I get this tree window that appears here, and I can go through and tick and untick all the folders that I might want moving across, or say if I don't want my favorites or my download folders, you've got a bit of control there as to what it does or doesn't want to copy across. So if we save that and then have a look at customizing the shared items, again, I've got the same options, but you can see here these are all things like public documents, public desktop, and again, if I click on advanced, I get the full tick box. So you can see here, I've got some extra folders on this computer. I've got perf logs and I've got USMT. Now it's gone and detected, well, hang on a minute, we don't normally have this folder USMT on a machine, so I'm going to select that and copy it across. So you might find when you run this on an old machine that this whole data size is huge because it's gone and found lots and lots of random files on your machine that it thinks would need copying across. So it's probably worth just coming and looking in this tree view and making sure that it's going to pick only what you want. So for the purposes of this demo, I don't want perf logs, I don't want the user state migration tool, which is what we're going to be talking about next. Click on Save, and then Next. Now it's going to force us to pick a password for this, so I'm just going to pop a password in here. Click on Save, and we're going to get asked where would we like to keep this. I'm just going to copy it into the root of C, click on Save there, and it's just going to run through and create that file bundle. So I'm going to pause the recording again while that's going through. Okay, so that's completed. I've got a nice green ticks here next to all the sets of items that I've chosen. Click on Next, and it's just got a summary screen here telling me what the name of the file is that it's created and where it's been saved. Click on Next and close. If we go and have a quick look now on the C drive of this computer, you'll see that Windows actually knows about this file type, the .mig. I can, if it's moving to a Windows 7 machine, just double click on that and it will open up the Easy Transfer wizard for us and start the import. In my case, I'm just going to close this down and we'll run it back from the CD again. Okay, so we're back in our wizard. This time round, we're going to transfer items from an external hard drive, and we're going to say that this is my new computer. Now it's asking us, did we have this data saved on an external or a USB flash drive? Have we got it plugged in? Yes, we have, because it's actually on the local C drive, and this time we get our wizard here. And again, don't forget that this can be network folders or network locations as well. So open up our C drive and choose our MIG file that we created earlier. Pop the password in, and it's going to go through, scan the information inside that file, and come back and say, well, I found some details here about Bibble user and these shared items. If I click on Customize, exactly the same options as I had when I chose to do the export, I can go in and I can pick what I do and don't want to be restored. Under Advanced Options here, this is where we've got the two options for mapping user accounts. So in this case, Bibble user, if I had multiple accounts on this machine, or if I wanted to create a new user, we'll just pop that in there, give it a username, give it a password, create, and it's going to map any of the specific information inside that profile that referred to Bibble user. It's going to go through and map those across to this new user instead. The same on this tab under map drives. Well, it's found that on my old computer I only had a C drive, and on the new computer I've only got a C drive, so there isn't actually any choice here because we don't have the option of changing one drive to another. So we're going to cancel out of that. If I went and clicked transfer, that would run through the wizard, applying all the settings that I'd chosen, and then I'd log off, log back in, and all my profile settings should be copied across there. So that's the Easy Transfer wizard. As you can see, very straightforward, very simple, not necessarily very flexible though. That's why Microsoft also provide this other set of tools called the User State Migration tool. USMT, as it's known for short, it's made up of two command line tools, one called scan state, one called load state. Scan state is the tool that lets you suck up all the profile information off the source computer, and load state is what pushes that back out on the destination computer. The USMT is actually part of the Windows Automated Install Kit, and it's currently at version 4. Now, previously Microsoft did make the USMT available as a separate download, but unfortunately with version 4 you have to download the WAIK for Windows 7. To do that, if you just go browse around the Microsoft download site, you'll come across the WAIK. It's around 1.2 gig, something like that. You'll need to download and extract and install it, and then you'll find on the hard drive the USMT. The good news is, however, that if you've already got a machine that has got the WAIK installed, the USMT is just a flat folder. You don't need to do any installation to use it. You can just copy that where you need it and run the tools as and when you need access to them. The USMT can copy data off to a USB drive or to a network. It just creates a dump file, much in the same way as we just use the Easy Transfer Wizard. It's customizable, very highly customizable, in fact, using XML files, so you can create your own definitions. If you've got custom applications in your enterprise that have settings in specific locations, you can create XML definition files that will allow you to copy that data across. So if we just have a quick look here, these are the four main, these are the four XML configuration files. We've got mig.app.xml. Those are application settings, so things like Outlook, favorites, keyboard and mouse settings, screensavers, all the kind of main application type settings defined in this file. Mig user is profile data and profile paths, so things like my documents, start menu, customizations, any things like that. MIG docs is general document locations. That differs from this MIG user path here. MIG user is the user's my documents or the user's profile folder shares. This MIG documents will pick up anything that you specify on the C drive or the D drive, or any drive on your computer. You might have defined in your corporate policy that you've got a fixed user share that exists on certain machines, or that all computers have, like a COS files for storing data about that computer, drivers, that sort of stuff. You define anything that wasn't part of the user profile in this one. And then config.xml is where you configure your exclusions, so anything you don't want to be migrated across that would be by default. So let's have a look now at the first part of the USMT. That's called scan state. It's just a .exe file, scanstate.exe. Make sure you're running it as local admin. It can be run offline, as in your old Windows machine doesn't necessarily have to be on. If you've done an in-place upgrade and you've got a windows.old directory, you can run scan state against that windows.old directory. Switches, there's an awful lot of switches. I suggest you go and have a look at TechNet. There's a link towards the end of this video for scan state and load state. There's a few important ones that you should know. Those are listed here. So /I, you then define your XML files previously that we've just talked about. Then we've got 4 switches here that define what users we're going to extract the data from. We can use /all, which just picks up all users on a computer. We can do /user include or user exclude. If we use those, we then need to put switches in the format of something/something, as in our domain /user or our machine name /user. We can include or exclude UEL based on date, so we might want to exclude all profiles that haven't been used in, say, the last 60 days, because chances are they're old data, we don't care about them anymore. We've got some options here to encrypt. We can use /encrypt/key. With /key, that's where we provide it with a key file or a password that it will use to encrypt the lump of data. We can also use /no-compress, which means that it doesn't compress the output. By default, it will compress the output. No-compress forces it not to. With /L, we can enable logging to see what's actually going on. If we do use /L, we would normally need to use this /V. That's setting the logging level. So we would do /V and then say 9 to set logging at the 9th level. For more information about what the levels of logging are, I suggest again that you go and have a look on TechNet. And we've also got this /P switch here, which runs through in test mode. So /P will go through, give us an idea of how much data there is on the local computer, how much stuff it needs to copy across. If you use /P, you have to use this no compress switch option as well. It's quite important to remember that one. It's one they tend to try and ask you about on the exams. The reason is because it doesn't know until it actually does the compression how much disk space it will save. Okay, so let's have a look now at scan state and the USMT. There's also one other switch that I haven't mentioned on here called /hardlink. We'll talk about that when we come onto the load state tool. So let's just hop into my computer, C drive, USMT. Now we've got a 64-bit and a x86 editions of these executables. If we have a look in here, we've got our scan state, and up the top we've got our load state here. We've also got, these are our default configuration files, so if we have a look in MIG user, you can see this is an XML type definition file. So now let's run those. If we open up a command prompt and browse to that folder path. So we're going to do scan state on this computer. First is where we want to store that data, or we're just going to store it on the root of C. Then we're going to do /I because we want to do MIG user.xml as our config file. We want to migrate the user profiles. We want to do /all for all users on this computer. And I think that'll probably do. We'll just leave it at that. Just pause the recording there and it's run through and finished. Took about a minute or two. Not very long because there's not much information on here. Got a quick summary here saying we've got this user here has been migrated successfully, our second user being the computer. If we go back to my computer, into the C drive, you can see it's created us this USMT folder, and inside here is our .mig folder path. Now you'll notice that this is actually a very small file. We're talking less than a meg here. That's because the default configuration files don't have an awful lot of information in them. So if you're looking to deploy this in your corporation, your company, it's worth checking out and spending quite a lot of time making sure you get these XML definitions correct. Right then, let's move on with our presentation. We'll have a look back at the next tool, which is load state. Again, with load state, make sure you run it as local admin. And again, there's a whole bunch of switches here. It's just a subsection of all of the options available. Please check out TechNet for some more information about all of them. The main idea with the exam, with both of load state and scan state, is just to make sure you're familiar with, roughly what the switches are going to be. You're not going to be asked any too detailed or complex questions, but just make sure you're aware things like /UI is user include, UE user exclude, that you've got the option to exclude based on date, those sorts of things. There's a few switches here that are specific to load state. So we've got /MD, which is migrate domains. Much as we could with the easy transfer wizard, we had the option of migrating or mapping one user to a new user. You can do that with domains in USMT. /MU is perform the same with migrate the user. /LAC will create a new local account for us, and /LAU will enable that account. By default, it will be created disabled. So let's just talk quickly about this /hardlink. You might well be asked a question around this. The place where you would use a /hardlink is during a wipe and load migration. So when you're wiping the old operating system off a computer and putting Windows 7 back over the top of it. The /hardlink allows the profile data on the machine to be kept during that wiping, formatting and reinstalling process. If you do that, it's very careful to make sure that any repartitioning or wiping, formatting of the drives is done by Windows Setup, because it will be aware that there's these hard links that exist and won't clean those up. The questions you're likely to be asked around this is something along the lines of what would be the way of migrating user data that uses the least amount of space. Would it be using /compress, /no compress? The option is more than likely to be using the /hardlink option. Syntax for load state, as you can see, is very similar to scan state, so I won't go through and do an actual demo of that. So just a quick summary of this module. There's two tools we've talked about. There's the Easy Transfer Wizard and the USMT. Inside USMT are these tools, scan state and load state. These are the links to the TechNet website here, where you can go and find more information about the switches and more information about how they work. I'll make sure they're posted in the blog post alongside this video. Easy Transfer Wizard, when would you use it? It's small migrations. It's normally if you're, say, helping friends or family, or you've got 1 or 2 users that need to migrate stuff around. If it's anything more than that, you should really be looking at using USMT. Very, very flexible, but along with that flexibility is a level of complexity, so do make sure you practice and try these things out in a lab before you do them for real. So thank you very much. I hope that's been okay, this video. Please leave me your feedback so I know that people are paying attention to these, and hopefully we'll have the next module coming along soon. In fact, it'll be section 2, module 1. Thank you very much.